Sidewalk Committee. It's 7:05. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Got a motion by Bev. Is there a second? Second by Marty. All those in favor say aye. Favor? Opposed? And then, the only two of the items we got on the agenda is review of 2016 and 17 sidewalk project. We sent out notices last week for our hearing, which will be the next council meeting. And we just wanted to go through being, Bev is new to the sidewalk committee and new to the city council. We wanted to review it kind of with her, and then we wanted to go through the code enforcement sidewalks that we sent out letters for also. So you guys kind of know which properties that we already sent out letters. So we'll go through the code enforcement properties first. On the screen, the areas that are in red are the areas that we're going to go after for the code enforcement properties.
Jerry, just for the public, these are properties that should have put in.
These are properties that should have put in sidewalk based off the ordinance that was passed in July 20th of 1992, which means any new construction, either residential or commercial, must put in a sidewalk on all sides of their property that face a curb street. So these are properties that were built after July 20th, 1992 that did not put in sidewalk at that time. And we have talked about this numerous times about what are those people that didn't do it when they should have as part of the ordinance. Well, the only way that we could enforce it is by special assessment. So we are doing that now. The reason why I picked this area is when we're out and about and you guys get a number of calls from what about the people that didn't put it in this area. So that's kind of why I picked this area. And with going through sidewalk committee minutes, this is the one area where we had a couple of sidewalk waiver denials. Sidewalk waiver is someone could come to the sidewalk committee and request a sidewalk waiver, which means it is a temporary waiver of no sidewalk in the area at that time, but is not a permanent waiver. And there were a couple properties in the sidewalk minutes that they requested a waiver, and they said waiver denied, and you need to get the sidewalk done. So these were some of the properties that were in there, so that's why I started with these. So all the ones in red are ones that were built after 92, and they received a notice last week. This is Shopko. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. Here's Vernite. Here is North Davison. This is Green Ridge. And then this is 23rd Avenue. Yeah. So Danny's talking about right here. No. The sidewalk committee has focused on three things: sidewalk in the downtown area, sidewalk around parks and schools, parks, and then sidewalk around schools. So that's kind of where we focused our intentions on. Because that was an area that at one time was requested to have sidewalks in that area, and with a lot of kid traffic and everything like that, it was denied at one time, and the sidewalk committee wanted to go after that area, so we just put that on a list. And I am up for that. I think we have put together a 5-year plan for sidewalks. I think it'd be better if we continue with that 5-year plan
And this is on the 5-year plan.
This stretch here is not on the 5-year plan. We're going to go through the 5-year plan tonight, and you'll see the areas that we're doing for the 5-year plan has also a lot of kid traffic, and I think we just need to focus with that plan. And if there is an area like this area we want to follow in that next phase, the next 5-year plan, then we go after that area.
Wasn't there a request at the last sidewalk meeting from the sidewalk committee that you look at those properties that weren't currently in compliance with code, which is where these are coming from now?
So this is kind of the reason why we went, we picked
Because
these
these
areas.
are places where the housing was built after 1992.
Right.
So they're currently out of compliance.
Yeah, they're out of compliance. So the sidewalk committee wanted to make an effort to make sure that we start enforcing those areas.
And so I guess it's just a little bit puzzling because at this point, if you just do those areas that are not in compliance, but you let the rest of it go, it seems a little bit, it makes no sense to me.
It seems patchy. It seems a little patchy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yes, definitely. And I would think that as long as you're having them do those areas that are out of compliance, like I said, I know I'm not on the committee, but in my opinion, this would be an area where you would say, as long as we're there, let's get this done. I know we have a 5-year plan. I know
Right. The difficulty is, a number of years ago, and I think it was before you were on the council, and it was after Bev was on, before you were on again. We had a number of people come up and say, why should we put in sidewalks when there weren't sidewalks around the parks, when the city didn't do whatever? And I thought that was a legitimate argument, and so did the people on the council at the time, and we did that. It's a little difficult to tell somebody who's never had sidewalk before, and under the Americans with Disabilities Act, they have an obligation, but they didn't have a previous obligation. When they can point to areas of town and say, they put up a new house and they were supposed to do it and they never did it, so why am I doing it before they do it?
Right.
So I think that's why, we said we'd like to do that. And then when we look at the 5-year plan, we're finishing off areas that we've already been working in. And that's another difficulty too, when you are in an area and then all of a sudden you pull up stakes and people say, well, why in the world did I put in sidewalk and now 2 houses down they don't have to do it?
Right.
So
No, I
that's
hear what
kind
you're
of the-
saying, Mel. I agree with you. But I guess what I'm saying is that then once we're in the area, why would we build sidewalks to nowhere? Sidewalks that end in this little, like you have a little stretch and then there's no stretch and then a little stretch and another no stretch. And I feel like if you're there and they need to be done and there are lots of kids, that seems to me like it's a prime area that should be addressed.
The way that I kind of look at this is I consider this as basically a new development. So you have a new development, houses build their houses, and they put in the new sidewalk as part of the code. I look at this as the same idea. Once we get the code enforcement sidewalks, just like a new development is building sidewalks, the woods, different new developments around town, then we come in later and fill in the voids. The people that didn't put it in, that built their house before 1992.
I understand we're limited on funds, and to a certain degree, I could see Susan's point. If we go a little bit further south, we see some sidewalk, where here it's basically just kind of north up by itself. Would it make more sense to maybe try to tie in with some of our existing and then eventually work our way north? Or what you were thinking, maybe start and then work down? Is that what you're thinking?
Start and work down, or go in and fill in the voids.
Have you clarify, I think I understand that the area in the red is an area that was built after 1992, and that is your first emphasis. That
Correct.
one is first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the areas that are in yellow will proceed over the next 5 years.
No, the areas in yellow are all existing.
They're existing.
They're all
Excuse me, I'm
existing.
glad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will go, once we're done with talking about code enforcement, we will talk about what we're going to plan on doing for this, for 2016.
So just to clarify, the space between the red and the yellow, there's nothing then?
Correct. There is nothing there. Correct.
I think that's getting at your question.
There's probably, with a contractor side, it might be, it's hard to tell. Well, the way we are going to group these, I'm probably going to group the bidding for this code enforcement area the same as when we do this area on Langdon. I'll probably group this area on Langdon and that code enforcement all in the same bid package. So it'll be lumped to get kind of together. I don't know if there'll be much of a difference. If I just group it as a miscellaneous area, it might be the same price, or it might be a little bit higher. But I'm going to group it in with one of the other stretches. That way, we get a fair price.
I'm sorry, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, to move the equipment that they use to set up sidewalks is not large equipment. I mean, we're not
Right.
talking a major move.
Yeah, but what I would do is, when they are in the area, I would tell them to stay in that area, do the sidewalks that you are planned for or bid for, and you never know until we see how this goes. We might have property owners just say, you know what, I just want to have mine done at the same time, just as well do my property at the same time.
Terry, out of curiosity, I look at this and that area that you're describing, is that Langdon?
This area here is Langdon.
Yeah. So I don't know what the difference is. I know we're going to be talking about Langdon, and I think there's a little opposition to that, but I'm wondering what if you took that stretch and moved it north up by the, whatever is that, Davison?
Yep.
Up by Davison, and instead of doing those Langdon, you could actually finish that or come close to finishing that stretch.
And that's up to the sidewalk committee, and that's up to you guys.
I know, it's not my, I know, it's my business, but it's not my vote, so. But it's just an option.
Let's,
Just as a point of clarification too, I believe in 15, these are, what you're seeing on the plan for 16 was originally what we were going to do in 15, but the council or the sidewalk committee backed it back a year to give those landowners a year's notice. So anybody that's on that plan for 16 was notified last year about the sidewalk change for this year.
and while we're talking about Langdon, let's just move to that area. So the area in blue is the area on Langdon. The area all in yellow are all the existing sidewalks. So about 3-4 years ago, we did sidewalks on Langdon from 12th all the way to 15th, right up here. We had some property owners that said, well, why don't you continue to go south? And the sidewalk committee said, at this time, we're just going to go from 12th all the way to 15th. But at some point, we hope to extend it to the south. This sidewalk plan to extend it all the way down to 9th is an effort based off what the sidewalk committee told those residences that we would continue that stretch going to the south. This is the rec center, Gertie Bell Rogers School, and here you got Joe Quinto Field, the high school, and the new Fine Arts Center that is being built right now. So when we looked at that, one of our missions, I guess, would be to tie on sidewalks that would connect parks, schools in the downtown area. This was an effort to help create a nice passageway to tie people that are walking to the high school, the Fine Arts Center, or area neighborhoods to get them connected together. We get phone calls that come in that say, okay, we got sidewalks going east and west, but there are no sidewalks going north and south. So it would be nice to have some of those connections so our kids aren't having to walk in the street. So this was an effort by the sidewalk committee to request to have sidewalks put on Langdon from 9th all the way up to 12th.
So, sorry, I received a phone call and stopped by today on the corner of Langdon and 11th, and the residents are here tonight, but they were told last year that they would be taken off that they're a place where the sidewalk virtually goes nowhere and has very little traffic on it. In fact, apparently the mayor sat there one day and counted foot 2 days and counted foot traffic and saw virtually no one using the sidewalk or even walking that way, right? So I'm wondering if that's really a high priority area. I can see what you're saying about it being in close proximity to those places, but obviously it's not a road that's being taken very often as a walking path.
Well, that's sort of a chicken and the egg thing, though, because if I have a sidewalk on the block, to the west, then I'm going to take the sidewalk rather than walking the street. And we get these arguments all the time. Well, nobody walks here. Well, because they have to walk in the street. So, I mean, we're either going to finish areas by schools and public facilities, or we're not. And I think we should stick with the original plan.
I agree with you now. I received a phone call from the same people, and I did drive today as well. Just south of them, about 2 blocks, there is sidewalk going north and south. And I agree with you now. If I'm out walking, or if I'm not riding my bike, whatever it is, I could use my areas that are conducive to whatever I'm doing. And I thought too, as I drove that, with the high school there, with the youth structure there, I just think that finishing it off makes sense. It just makes sense. I have to be able to do it the previous approval of sidewalk, maybe stop the area as it was initially intended.
And we will be having the public hearing on this area at the next council meeting, so all those property owners will have the chance to come up during that hearing.
Next
And
council
yeah,
meeting.
yeah, that's when we'll have our public hearing on this area. So
Another question. I'm sorry, another question that was posed to me then this evening is there still the option, and I know there was at the time that I was on the council previously, is there still an option of going with a sidewalk that is next to the curb if it is a situation where it becomes inhibitive because of structures that are currently there?
yes, we will. We try to make the sidewalk go straight. We try to make it have, a boulevard-style sidewalk. So you have a grass space in between the curb and the sidewalk. But if the property owners want to go curbside, we don't tell them that, no, you can't go curbside. We will make that adjustment. The curbside width, the minimum width on curbside sidewalk is 6 feet wide, whereas boulevard sidewalk is 5 feet wide. The city pays for that extra foot. Our city code is 7 feet wide for curbside sidewalk, but in some areas, if we got trees that we got to stay away from when we're doing curbside, then we'll stay to that 6 feet wide.
And what we have found over the years, Bev, is we like to have a boulevard there because of the snow removal. You don't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden you get a lot of snow, and the street department is pushing it on the sidewalk, and the homeowner comes out and throws it back to the street, and then they just play this game, and everybody's upset. And so that's why it's always good if we can try to have the boulevard. But we have worked with homeowners in the past if it just doesn't look like it's going to look right, or like you said, if there's structures or different things that is important to them. There's possibilities, but we try to encourage boulevards if we can.
And one thing on this too, Jeff and the rest of the council, is Langdon, the setbacks obviously were different when these houses were built. There's no doubt about it. Or the road got widened. I can't remember how it all worked, but they got built and the road got widened. However, their front yards are literally in the road, to me almost. I mean, so I think consideration of sidewalks being curbside, if we proceed forward with that, is something that we got to take a look at doing for these folks. The other thing about it is, if the sidewalks do go right where they're at that 5 foot, 7 foot setback, we will have to remove obviously a lot of trees or have to be done because they have rows of trees right in the current sidewalk area if we proceed with that. So it's definitely something if we do move forward, we have to consider that with the people there because a little different situation when we see every time we get sidewalks in certain areas. This is definitely one of them again. So
That was the same way that we were.
Yeah. And what we did is we sent everybody a drawing that would show possible sidewalk layout, which is all based off, Boulevard. If we saw some trees and we put in the letters that were sent to all the property owners that we prefer to have Boulevard sidewalk, but if you want curbside sidewalk, we are willing to, modify the layout to make that adjustment. Just call the engineer's office and we could take a look at that and redraw that in there and send you a new revised layout. So.
Terry, you've got a number of people from the Langdon area. Do you want to
I'll
talk,
leave
or
it
do you
up
want
to
to do
you.
it next?
I guess what we could
They
do
are
is
here.
just at least let's talk about what we're going to do for 2016. And then if we got time, then we won't go through the rest of the 5-year plan. We could do that at a future meeting. Then we can let them talk if we still got time.
I have one question. What's the timeline on when they're going to be removed to start before the sidewalk?
We are waiting until we have the public hearing to decide if they proceed with going along with that stretch. And after the public hearing, then for those people that have told us to go ahead and take out the trees, the park department will probably add it to their list and get them down yet this winter. If they don't get them down this winter, it'll be next spring before the contract gets started. Okay, next area that we're going to do in 2016 is Raleigh Street from Havens all the way down to Norway. So as you can see, we are connecting a main thoroughfare, and now I've been told from a couple calls that I've received in the last couple weeks and even last year that since this light has been put in on Norway and Havens, Norway has gotten a lot busier. And the phone call I had today was there are kids walking down the street on the way to the park, and I just get scared of seeing the kids walking in the street, so I'm in favor of having sidewalks in this area. So they were happy that we were proceeding with this location. So as you can see, we're going to be connecting cross streets, connecting the park, and then there's also L.B. Williams School over here to the west, and where there is a bike trail that goes all the way around L.B. Williams. And then we will be putting in sidewalk on Hurst Street on the south side of the park. So that's that area. And then over here, just west of Wesleyan, you got Genuine Park, which is here, which is that area that Mel mentioned, along with Pioneer Park, where the city spent a fair amount of money putting sidewalks along all the parks. Did that as a first step in order for us to proceed with our sidewalk areas. So last year we did Williams. This year in 2016, we're planning on doing Nindy from University all the way to Miller, and then Minnesota from McCabe all the way down to Nindy. So that's what we're going to do for 2016, which will be part of your public hearing. I guess at this time, if you want to come up and voice your comments on the 2016 sidewalk projects, you could feel free to go ahead.
the question I have is before people come on up here and talk, the fact that it's 7:28, are we going to open up this and run council late? I don't want to get one person started. We're not going to listen to all of them is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know if it's something that we want to listen to one now and cut off a few later or wait till the hearing or not. I mean, they're here, but I just want to make sure the sidewalk committee has permission to run into council. It is now 7:30.
7:28.
I don't want to get one started and we can't listen to all of them is what I'm getting at. So
We're down to 2 minutes.
Well, I think people are here. We don't have too much.
okay, as long as everybody's in favor for it, I'm on board too.
On November 15, 2015, Mayor Toomey came up to our house from 1 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. A few of my neighbors that are also here tonight also came over and visited with Mayor Toomey about the sidewalk project on Langdon Street. Mayor Toomey kept telling us that there was no need for a sidewalk on this street. He kept saying there are more important areas in the town that needed sidewalks more than we did. And those areas being around the school areas, like around John Paul and around L.B. Williams School, where some of the children have to walk out into the streets to get to school instead of having a sidewalk. Mayor Toomey also told us that there was a council meeting on Monday night, November 16th. He was asked by myself, while my other neighbors were also standing there, if we needed to attend that meeting. The mayor's response was no. He said it wasn't a public meeting and no one would be allowed to speak at it. We took him for his word as a new mayor, but in the paper clipping on November 17th, and I have one here if anybody wants to look at it, it shows that Dennis Olson got up and spoke before the committee. So that's why we're all here tonight, because we've been told before that we did not need to be here to speak to you people. And as we found out in past times, we do need to be here. We need to represent ourselves. So I called the mayor on Tuesday, November 17th, after hearing the results of the meeting, and I asked him why he told all of us that we didn't need to be there. Mayor Toomey told me he never told us that and called me a liar on the phone. So that's why we're here tonight, folks. And I have tried to call a few of you. Ms. Robinson, I tried to call. I couldn't get a hold of her unless I left a message, and then she called me back. She has no listed telephone number as a council member, only an email address. As council members, I feel that you are here to represent us as citizens. I've also wondered about the projected cost that's listed in our little letter that we got from Terry Johnson. Because I have been watching the paper, and in past, all of his projects that he has declared and engineered have gone way over budget. Spruce Street was like, what, $200,000 over budget from what he thought it should be? So I'm wondering if the amount in the letter is what we'd actually end up paying, or will it be double that? I'm also wondering if all of us in the city are being equally treated. There was a mention of William Street being done last year. 801 South William Street happens to be the home of a contractor. His name is Blaze Bender. If you go back and check, you'll find that the city of Mitchell paid for Blaze Bender's retaining wall and 20-ton of dirt that was put in, as well as a cap that was put on the retaining wall. The block cost $4.44 a piece instead of the regular $1 block that is usually used by the city of Mitchell when a retaining wall is put in. Now, why did he get special treatment? Why was that retaining wall put in for Blaze Bender, Creative Concepts contractor, and paid for the city of Mitchell? When he went in to pay for it, it was all paid in full for him. Why do the rest of us residents have to pay for a sidewalk when contractors get theirs paid for by the city? Why? What did Mr. Johnson gain out of this? big number. I mean, wow. And on football game nights, people do park along that street. Would they use a sidewalk? No. They get out, they walk down the street, or they cut across my neighbor's yard. They don't use a sidewalk. They even walk down the street on 11th Street. They don't use the sidewalks there either. So my question to you people is, why are those of us on Langdon being targeted when there are other places in this town that definitely do need sidewalks for the protection of children? Why are we being targeted in homes that are 70 plus years old when Mr. Johnson himself has said, you know, there are homes out there that were built after 1992 that do not have sidewalks installed when they should have, because there's an ordinance 1721 that says that there should have been sidewalks installed along with the building of the home. So I'm asking you folks, why on Langdon Street, why are we being targeted in older homes, in homes that will not have a front yard, where front steps will be taken out, and the sidewalk will be right along the house? Why are we being targeted when there are other places in this town that would make more sense to spend the money and have the sidewalks put in?
If you want an answer, I can try to answer for you.
Mr. Olson, go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, not dealing directly with your point about whether or not there's a higher priority. There may be a higher priority in town, and that's part of what next meeting is going to be about. But under the Americans with Disabilities Act, eventually every place in town will have a sidewalk. And as long as we make progress, the federal government doesn't bother us. But we have to make progress with the sidewalks every year. So whether you're this year or next year or 10 years from now, sidewalk is coming to your area.
I understand that, Mr. Olson, but at the same time, there are more specific areas in this town that do need to be targeted for sidewalks long before this dead-end street on Langdon.
And I'm not arguing with your point. I don't know that your point is true or not true. I'm sure it's a matter of opinion. But if you look at the map, what we've tried to do in various areas is finish out areas of town. And I absolutely accept your point, which is the point I was trying to make to Susan a little earlier, that we have these kind of comments when people come up and they say, well, you know, so-and-so should have put in the sidewalk under the 1992 ordinance or whenever it was. So we are going to ask those people to do what they should have done.
So
Now,
why is not the city targeting those people
we are.
who have broken the law
We are.
before you come after those of us that have homes that are older than 70 years old?
Well,
Why?
we are doing that. You saw that earlier in the presentation if you were here, the red area. And then, again, I understand your point, but how old your home is, the federal government doesn't care. What they care is there's no sidewalk. And again, this gets to what I was saying earlier, the argument that people don't use the sidewalk in your area and they cut across the neighbor's lawn, that's because there's no sidewalk. So as far as priorities go, that's a subject for next meeting. We take your point. As far as retaining walls go, if in fact the city, by virtue of putting in sidewalk, changes the drainage or causes erosion or things of that nature, then we do put in retaining walls, just as we put in the corners for handicapped and all the rest. So if your particular property needed a retaining wall because of the sidewalk, we would do that.
And you would also pay for it out of city
We would
funds.
pay the retaining wall. We wouldn't pay the sidewalk.
And you would pay for a block that's more expensive than you would use for any other person.
Well, I don't know the specifics of that. I know that we would pay for the retaining wall. So we do have other people that maybe would like to speak. So if you've got any last points, and then we can hear other people.
Well, I have one last point. There was They lived at 501 Greenridge Lane. Their home was built after 1992. But Brenda also worked for the city of Mitchell. And so she got a waiver to not have to put sidewalks in. So if I have to come to work for the city of Mitchell to avoid putting a sidewalk in, hey, I'm for hire.
She was not granted that waiver. That waiver that was denied.
I recall that. I recall the meeting where it was actually denied. I was not aware that the sidewalks never were put in. And I do have one other thing. As you know, I've just been appointed to the council. I just spoke with Michelle via email and again in person tonight. I gave her the number that you called, and when you called yesterday, my employee gave me the note, and I think if you recall, I turned around and called you back within the hour. That is going to be my method of contact. I do have another job, and I do have a personal cell phone. However, this is a part-time position. I do as much as I possibly can, as often as at all possible, and I will be able to be reached through that number pretty much anytime that there's business time, and I will be getting back to people within 24 hours.
And that should also be listed, ma'am, under the city of Mitchell.
It is going to be. She is updating that. Yep,
Because
that's been
all
taken care of.
There is an email address, and I did try and call the phone number that was listed for you in the phone book also, and I got a response that this cannot go through.
It's not no, it's not a functioning phone. And, but Michelle is updating that. That was taken care of just today.
I just feel that there are more important areas in this town to go after to make sure of the safety of the children instead of a 3-block dead-end street. And I do thank you for your time, and I thank those of you that have been available for our comments and available to get in contact with. I do thank you for that. And I hope you will take this into consideration. We are not all rich people that live on Langdon Street. A lot of us are retired or unemployed or maybe just have a young family with no children. But $3,557 is a lot of money for my family to have to put forward for a street that goes nowhere. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. And I will see you in March.
Next week. Is there anybody else? With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second by Bev. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?